I've truly been interested in how AI can influence the corporate side, whether it relates to profits or increasing productivity, but also on the human side as it gives us the ability to just have a better life in general.
This is Heja Framtiden from Webbdagarna, IDG, at Stockholm Waterfront in Sweden. And I'm here with Ross Simmonds. Welcome to Heja Framtiden.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting with you.
You just had a great talk on main stage about how AI will change our lives, basically. Would you mind beginning by describing you and your story?
For sure. Yeah, so I'm a digital marketing strategist and entrepreneur. I run a handful of different companies, primarily in the marketing communication space, but I've also dabbled in the software space, building apps and software companies and things of that nature. So I'm a jack of all trades when it comes to technology, but overall I'm a tech entrepreneur and a marketer.
And you're from Canada?
Yes, so I'm from a small place called Nova Scotia, Canada on the East Coast, and I'm excited to be back in Stockholm.
Have you been speaking here before?
I have. So I did Webbdagarna 2 years ago, made some great connections, some great friends, and I've been back to Stockholm multiple times since then.
Oh, great. And why is AI such an interesting topic for you now?
Yeah, so I've been truly just fascinated by the opportunity that lies in AI, whether it's from a digital marketing lens all the way down to human ability. I think that artificial intelligence is one of the biggest shifts in our generation, and over the next 10 years, we're going to continue to see the impact that it has on our lives. Sometimes we won't even see the true impact because oftentimes artificial intelligence is happening behind the screen that we are using to interact with people, and we're not even really seeing it. So I've truly been interested in how AI can influence the corporate side, whether it relates to profits or increasing productivity, but also on the human side as it gives us the ability to just have a better life in general.
And you said that AI will be augmenting us, not replacing us. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so it's an interesting thought. I think that oftentimes we hear in the press the idea that artificial intelligence is going to wipe out all of the jobs. I believe that instead it's going to wipe out the tasks that we do on a regular basis that are more routine. I think that if anything, artificial intelligence is going to augment us so we can focus on things that are more non-routine tasks. For example, I think that the world of nursing, I think the world of caretakers are going to continue to rise because an AI can't do those things. I think that digital strategists, I think creative directors, I think all of these roles and these people who work in these industries, artists, are going to be unreplaceable, but the tasks that they do on a regular basis that are repetitive are going to be completely wiped out through artificial intelligence. There's no reason for a CEO to be scheduling meetings and calls with their time. So if an AI can do that on their behalf, that is a great way for them to focus on things that require a little bit more creativity and things that an AI wouldn't necessarily be able to do.
Yeah, you have a bot assistant yourself. Can you tell us about Clara?
I do. So Clara is a bot that I've been using for the last few years where essentially she schedules meetings for me when somebody sends me a note and they're like, Ross, I would love to grab a coffee. I can CC my assistant Clara, who is a bot, and Clara will actually read the text and the email that that person sent me and analyze it to understand when that person is available and to offer some dates and some times. They will go back and forth directly with that person and have a full conversation. Sometimes they'll even send an emoji or two to make it seem more personal, and it just gives them the ability to deal with my assistant, who's actually just a robot. And at the same time, that gives me the time and the ability to focus on things that matter rather than trying to figure out what time my calendar is free. Clara can look at my calendar for me, and it's all done through AI where she can manage my calendar and make sure that I'm going to the coffee shops that I love.
And you mentioned Google Duplex as well, which is a common example these days. Mm-hmm. But you also mentioned restrictions already, that you actually have to mention that it is a bot. Right. Do you think that will increase?
I think so. I think there's a huge hesitation right now amongst humans, myself included, like as a human, that we are still uneasy with the idea of our conversations solely being with an artificial intelligence, like an AI. I think that there's still some adoption that needs to take place. Will it happen in my lifetime? I feel like it will, but it's going to be towards the later stage. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for people to start to accept the fact that it's good for them to just be able to communicate with an AI, because that AI can move them along faster and make sure that they're getting the best service. So I do think that there will continue to be some issues just from a human perspective. But I think that we as a people and a species should embrace it a little bit and say, yeah, it's okay if I'm talking to an AI and I can get the same services I would if I was talking to a human, because that means that human can maybe spend more time with their kids, with their spouse, and that's something that we should all be okay with.
Yeah, in another episode of the podcast, I think it was Christian Gutmann, but he didn't mention it in the podcast. It was an example from a chatbot with depressed teenagers, right, where they actually trusted the bot more with their secrets than they would parents or doctors.
Wow, that's fascinating, and I think that's just a demonstration that not all of the AI technologies are bad. Like, a lot of time it gets a bad rap, but there are some great opportunities where you can add a human element to it, and it can truly save people's lives and help them live the life that they deserve.
And you're into the B2B segment, more or less. What do you see with the AI there? You talk about efficiency, performance, and opportunity. What are the main benefits that business executives can take from your session?
For sure. So I think the biggest benefit that I would tell any B2B organization is to look for things that they have to do on a regular basis and understand that AI can assist with that. At my company, for example, we typically used to hold what we would call all hands-on meetings, where everybody would come to the same table and have a conversation on what their priorities are today, what they did yesterday, what their blocks were, and all of those different things. We replaced that with a bot. So now a bot actually sends a message to everybody on the team, and they ask them those questions, and then it reports back to a community section on our site where everybody can see what everybody is doing, and it's all done without it taking up everyone's time to be in the loop on things. So I think that a lot of B2B organizations need to embrace AI for the ability to improve productivity internally, but also the opportunities that extend to external efforts like marketing, communications, even accounting, where you can have a bot that's looking at your books, making sure that there's no fraud happening, that people aren't signing off on expense claims that aren't necessary. AI can facilitate all of that. The key is just to ensure that you're hiring and building a team that can assist with that execution.
And you mentioned a couple of examples of use cases or startups that are using this technology. Do you think it's a fun time to be a marketer?
It's a fun time to be a human. It's a fun time to be a marketer. It's all super fun because there's so much innovation happening in the space where I think we are truly going through one of the most interesting times to be a marketer. It's definitely still one of the hardest times as we're facing tons of challenges around permissions and privacy, and algorithms are changing all the time. But at the same time, the opportunity to leverage technology in a way to connect closer with your customers and with your the people who you want to sell to has never been better. And I think that that's an exciting thing to be a part of.
You also mentioned that there's never been a more interesting time to be human, right, and that today's science fiction is tomorrow's science facts. Right. Do you think we've reached a threshold going into something new?
Right. I think it's going to continue. I think we're just getting started. I truly do believe that we're going to live in a world very soon where you're going to have conversations with who you think is a person, but it's actually just a hologram type of thing. Like, I really do think that the future that we would have saw on Star Trek, on Star Wars, on all of these things, elements of it are going to come to life. I think elements of it are starting to come to life today. Like, no one would have imagined that you could pay for a product with your phone by simply looking at it. But now through facial recognition, you can have your face scanned and pay for something. That is, if you were to tell my grandmother that 20 years ago, she would lose her mind. Like, it just doesn't make sense. But that is the world that we live in today. So you can only think about the world we're going to live in 20 years from now when this technology continues to evolve.
How do you think companies should prepare themselves?
I think the key piece is to recognize, first and foremost, that they have to start doing something. And that could simply be by bringing in experts to teach their team so they can start thinking differently around this approach, bringing in people who can actually execute on some of these items. I think one of the biggest challenges that organizations face is finding that strategic alignment with execution. And if you can figure that out, that's where you start. You start by understanding, what is our plan for AI? How can we leverage it? How can we inject it into our processes and systems? And how can we use that to truly take our organization to the next level?
Mostly the AI discussion has been about basic repetitive tasks that will be replaced. You mentioned the law, banking,
Right.
auditing, stuff like that. What about creative tasks and professions? Do you see AI augmenting us there as well?
It's going to take a long time. There was a video of a robot that essentially was given a handful of different movie scripts over the years, and it had to analyze those movie scripts and try to create its own script as a result. The script that it wrote was horrible. It was bad. You would lose your mind laughing because it was so bad. Nothing made sense. So we are very far from getting that qualitative insight from a robot. Today, it's very much a very linear process where the I's come in and the L's go out. Like, it's very linear in that sense. I think that there will be a time in like maybe 50 years where we start to see some non-routine jobs starting to be influenced by AI, but I don't believe we're going to see that within the next 10 or 20. I think it's going to take a lot more work, but I could be wrong. Like, it may happen faster than I can even imagine, and I would be excited for that as well. But I do think that the creative arts world still has some time before it's going to be influenced by artificial intelligence to the same degree as a more routine job.
Yeah, but I think that as a journalist and musician, I think that it can augment my creations.
Right.
It can suggest things.
Right. Yeah. Like, I think that's the cool part where AI can be a benefit. Like, it won't be able to create a new song for you, but maybe it can tell you, okay, you should increase the beat here, or you need to increase the tempo at this section, because we've known from our research of analyzing all of the top tracks for the last few years that this is where you need to have your beat drop. Like, I think that's where AI can provide value, but I don't think AI will be able to completely write your new song. That's going to be a number one.
I usually ask your best tip to make the world a better place.
Oh, great question. So my best tip for making the world a better place would be to be nice to people. I think that's very simple. It's very straightforward, but a lot of times we don't go into our interactions with simple, basic humanity skills of being nice. And I think if you go into your interactions as trying to be nice, it'll work out.
And for organizations, your last call was to embrace technology and embrace the future. How do you do that on an executive level?
I think the key to embrace it from an executive level is really straightforward. I mean, you have to give your team the ability to execute on these things. You have to hire the team that is going to execute on them, and you have to get out of their way.
Great. Do you have any reading tips?
So one of my favorite books is a book by Clayton Christensen called How Will You Measure Your Life? I strongly recommend that people check that out. It's one of the most influential and gifted books that I give to people. I definitely think that that's a must read.
Okay. Who do you think I should interview?
Great question. So there's a few people. I love the work by Steve Stout from Translation. He's an innovator who is a great marketing mind. I think it would always be great to kind of speak to folks like, let me think here. John Ivey, who was from Apple. Anybody who's at organizations like Spotify, I think would be great to chat with as well. There's tons of innovators. You just have to kind of knock on their shoulder and get their time.
Thank you so much, Ross Simmonds. Check out rossimmonds.com, right?
Correct. Yeah, so definitely check out rossimmonds.com. My Twitter handle is @thecoolestcool. If anybody's listening to this and would like to connect, definitely send me a tweet there, or reach out to me at my website, rossimmonds.com. Always happy to chat with folks.
Great, thank you so much. All you need to know about Heja Framtiden is to be found on hejaframtiden.se. My name is Christian von Essen. Thank you for listening.